moving ahead, we have a panel discussion about robotics landscape in India, and who better to address it by none other than people who have made companies in India. So we have Mr. Naveen Arusanan, who is CTO of Aay Motors. Apart from that, Dr. Ravi Kumar GVV, who is Vice President of and Head of Advanced Engineering Group of Engineering Services at Infosys. And this panel discussion will be moderated by Amrutar Bharadwaj sir, who is a professor at IISc and co-founder, director and research head at Art Park IISc. So I invite all you, sir.
Good afternoon. So I think it was a really nice talk before ours. Very important topic they have covered. I hope you are all now all charged up to listen to two eminent guests out here to share their perspectives on the landscape of robotics in India. So what I thought was maybe we'll, just like what was done last evening in the panel discussion, we'll have I have like 3 broad questions which I'll ask and we'll discuss on those.
And then we'll open I work in software engineering and system integration team. And my research
but before we
area is
start,
mainly on my
I would invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves, their companies, their journey, what the companies are doing, and then we can get into the discussion. So, would you like to start? Or yeah.
I just found that Ravi is senior to me at college. I'm wondering if the senior should go first. Okay, I can start. It's good. Like, what kind of things lunch conversations throw? We realized that we were probably in the same hostel for all we know. I'm Naveen, as Professor Bharadwaj said. Like, thank you so much for the invite to discuss robotics, the state of robotics in India, at least in recent times. I'm CTO at Aay Motors. We work on material moving solutions. We have like autonomous cargo vehicles that work in factories, warehouses. We've had deployments in India. We have deployments in the US, and some of what I have observed in the last few years, I hope to share with you all during the course of this panel discussion. Did you want more than that?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Are you able to hear me now? Perfect. Yeah. First of all, thanks, Professor. Thanks to the entire Roscon team here for inviting me here. And it's wonderful to meet you all. I'm seeing a lot of youngsters. The future is with you, especially the robotics and autonomous technologies. Let me introduce myself. I'm Ravi Kumar, currently head the Advanced Engineering Group at Infosys. Advanced Engineering Group is a kind of specialized group in engineering services of Infosys, where we look at some of the next generation projects and also the innovation projects for our customers. As part of this particular group, I focus on 8 different areas. These includes robotics and autonomous technologies, AI and the machine learning, industrial IoT, Industry 4.0, virtual reality and augmented reality, composites and advanced materials, advanced simulations, and additive manufacturing. So these are the areas that I look after. With Infosys for the past 21 years now. I'm based out of Bangalore, here in India. As part of a product that was acquired from Ministry of Defense, Government of India, myself, my entire team moved to Infosys. That's how I started my journey at Infosys. Before that, I was a scientist in a corporate R&D center called Tata Research Center. I did my master's and PhD from IIT Delhi and bachelor's from the same institute as Naveen from BITS Planning. So that's about me. And as you all know, Infosys does a lot of IT and engineering services work. I belong to the engineering services group, looking after some of these advanced technologies. Thank you.
Yes, I think we have a really good coverage between a small company's upcoming startup and a giant out here. So I think we have a good panel out here. So I wanted to start off with this. I think is there an echo? I'm hearing quite a bit of echo. Is it okay? Okay, so it's one of the comments made in the panel yesterday was that the real market is outside India, right, for robotics currently. So, but then for us, for startups sitting out here, we can only go here, and try to address the market. So I wanted to kind of get both of your perspectives. You as a young startup have faced this problem. What is, and you've been around for like probably 5 years now, right? So you have seen the evolution of both the market in India, and probably now you're also looking outside. So what are your thoughts on, what is the opportunity for robotics in India to begin with? Let's discuss that first. And what kind of sectors is where there are interesting opportunities, and what kinds of robots?
I can go first. Our personal belief is that robotics is definitely a market in India. I think 80% of our robots are still in India, and we are doing fairly well. To me, I think it's not India or abroad; it's the value that you're bringing to the customer. So this goes back to most businesses, right? What is a robot that you're building? What is the value prop that the robot brings? And why are you better than a competitor if that exists? So as long as you can answer this reasonably well, I think people in India are happy to pay for automation, happy to pay for robotics. One thing that you could say has been slightly different is post-COVID. So COVID was a black swan event. No one expected that it's going to happen. So that has, in my opinion, started forcing folks to think of automation and future-proofing. That has definitely created a bigger demand for automation. That's something that has happened in the last 18 to 20 months. You can see that those trends are coming up. And while it's true that we are a nation of over 1 billion people and there is labor, I think the 3Ds, as someone says, right, it's very important in automation. It's dirty, dangerous, difficult. If you're solving in this 3D space, I think you are in good shape.
It's interesting that you use the phrase 3D, because we heard it yesterday also. So probably it's something which is important for all of us to keep in mind. 3D, yes. Do you... just to follow on that before I come to Ravi, I mean, you kind of mentioned about making better than the competitors, or making in a lot of the spaces, it seems like it's green field, right? I mean, maybe there are no robots yet. So
actually, most of automation, at least the queries that we come across, it's brownfield.
Yes,
it's brownfield. A lot of it is brownfield. So in fact, you can straight away jump into the challenges of doing this, right? Like it's, there could be some workflow changes that you would have to educate, you have to work with your customers on. Clearly, robots are not, it's not AGI yet. So they are like very purpose-driven robots that you make, whether you are cleaning the floor or moving material or you're picking something. It's a very specific purpose that the robots do. But how do you insert that robot into the customer's workflow, which is very unique? Every vertical has its own unique workflows, right? And you need to find that right solution to go and put your robot in. So it could go both ways. So you might have to modify your robots, or they have to modify some workflow. So it's a back and forth iteration that will have to happen in brownfield deployments. But you're right, if you have luxury of working with greenfield deployments, then great, you can get started on day one. You can say, this is the way to devise the workflow. It's much easier, but I would say like 1 out of 10 queries are like that.
But I think an important point you have raised, a phrase, is the word workflow.
Yeah.
So I think it seems like it's really important to understand the workflow.
Absolutely.
And know where to really pitch in your solution so that it can seamlessly integrate and then of course contribute value to their business operations.
Absolutely. I think robots are just one piece of the puzzle, in my opinion. It's an important piece. It's doing a very important task. But what is it that your end customer going to benefit from it, right? Like, yeah, I can move material from one place to another, but what does that even mean in factory A versus factory B?
So Ravi, I mean, I would like you to answer this question, but also I wanted to bring in an aspect which, of course, as Infosys, you have kind of in some sense, a unique ability as being a large MNC type company and where you have global visibility, right? So if you could also kind of comment on that as to from a global perspective vis-a-vis the Indian, where do you see the opportunities are in India versus the globe, and then how should a startup go about trying to address it?
No, I think that's a very good question. I would say today India is very well plugged into the world, and whether it is a robotics or any other industry is more or less a kind of global industry, right? And of course, we have our own challenges. The kind of problems that we as Indians face are different from the outside world. And we have, more than 1.2, 1.3 billion population. And one of the biggest worries that everybody will have is, are we going to lose jobs with the robots that are out there? And especially across various spectrum of the population that is out there. Right? But I see that as similar to when I was doing my schooling. Every day we used to have something or the other. Everybody says computers are coming and we are going to lose jobs in India. So that was the situation. But computers came and they have created so much of jobs in India. In fact, we are the ones who have picked up those jobs. Compared to any other country in the world, we got benefited out of it. I see the same thing now in the robotics area. Of course, if you look at it, the entire thing into three broad segments, right? So the first one is robotic products, right? These products, essentially, if you look at it, you should look at, for India, you need to look at it differently. For outside, you need to look at it differently. But even in India, we see a lot of labor shortage currently. And I still remember when I was very young, when I go to my own field, I used to see so many cattle around and people used to use those cattle for doing certain operations. Now, when I go back and then see the same field, hardly any cattle that are around. And my brother says if there are no equipment, machines, tractors or the harvesting machines are not there, probably he cannot survive, right? So that is a situation that is there. And this all happened in a gap of 20, 25 years, right? That's what is happening. And that's good for us. In fact, a lot of those people who are some child laborers and doing something here or there, they're all getting to the schools. And I see even for remote colleges, they are getting into ISCs and IITs. So that's good for us, right? So what I'm telling is these products, we need to look at it differently for India. Same thing with if you look at German or the Australia, same agriculture, they use land, right? Most of the work that is being done today is using the robots and 5G technology. In fact, we were deploying some of those 5G technologies for remote parts of Germany using swarm robot technologies and things like that, right? So that is one part of it, the robotic product side. Then the second one is the platforms, right? The lecture just before it, people talked about some of the DevOps and other related things. So you have a lot of those platforms, whether it is in the middleware at the device side or at the cloud side, right? So a lot of those platform development opportunities, that is immense. In fact, that is a lot of you people will have immense opportunities. That is the reason if you look at any MNC that is out there, they are all set up their divisions here in India, especially in Bangalore, you can see many of those things. Lot of those platforms are being developed here in India. And of course, the third part is the services segment, right? There is a huge amount of services opportunities that are there. They center around deploying these platforms and working closely with the customer, making sure the things happens, right? And a lot of these industry 4.0 solutions that we are currently building for the manufacturing industry, they comes with robotics and autonomous technologies by nature, right? Whether it is a fixed robot, robotic arm doing certain things in automotive shop floor, or the robots that are moving around to move material, and also the people in an enclosed environment and things like that. So these are the opportunities that are out there. I see India is much more well equipped today, mainly because we have intelligent brains out here doing a lot of the core engineering work as well as the core software work. And that's the combination, these two, and that is a combination that is required for the robotics market.
And I think it's, you have hit upon some really interesting points there. So I think the example you gave of cattle versus tractor, essentially what you're saying is that we need machines, and if machines are there which are affordable, people will use it and they'll get used to it. Like washing machines now, most of us cannot live without washing machines, right? I mean, we cannot, go back to the old way of washing clothes and so on. So that is a very good point. So there is a opportunity for people to kind of look at where can machines be brought in to help. I think the second thing you mentioned was platforms and contribution to developing the platform technologies, engineering, and so on. And the service, that is also a very interesting aspect. So all these three are potentially opportunities where I think the startups can think about, and based on their own DNA and interests and aptitude and connects, they can decide where they can kind of focus on, I guess, right? But how do they actually, how can they go about it, right? I mean, are there, I mean, because it's kind of like very broad, when you're looking for a job, there are job portals, you look for a job and so on. How do you do this? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, how can, are there programs in companies like Infosys and so on, which can draw and attract startups, or can entities like us in IIC Art Park can enable that? I mean, I'm just kind of trying to think aloud out here and ask your opinion on how we can facilitate the matching of potential problems in all these three sectors versus innovators.
No, that's a great point. In fact, Infosys, our DNA is system integration, right? We integrate some of these systems and provide solutions to the end customer. That is our core DNA, right? So because of the services work that we do today across the board, right? Having said that, we do work with multiple partners, right? Most of these partners, whether it is the bigger giants who are product vendors, platform owners, and we work with them, bringing their platforms and products for the end customer solution. Right? These partners includes the startup ecosystem as well. We do very closely work with the startup ecosystem, understanding some of those new and the next gen technologies and bringing those technologies for a particular customer problem to solve. Right? So that's the one. And the third important thing is we do work very closely with the university ecosystem. And in fact, the entire organization Infosys is built on the training, mentoring, nurturing the skills of the future. So huge amount of work that has been done there. And of course, whether most of all our founders are coming from either ISC or IITs and some of these premier institutes, they have given back to the society. So we do work. And of course, at the end of the day, any product or any solution will survive only when there is a certain amount of return on investment that is out there. The problem that you're solving, right? It should be a kind of unique so that it is self-sustainable, right? So that is very, very key. And once you establish that kind of initial ROI, then it will be easier. But of course, establishing that initial ROI and the problem that you are solving, what is that you are solving, don't solve the problem just for the sake of technology, right? Then it'll sometimes what happens is, okay, this particular technology is there, you can deploy it, but if it is too costly, right, then it's an issue. Simple example in the robotics and autonomous technologies, right? If you want to build some of these products for the Indian market, India is very, very cost conscious market. You can put all kinds of sensors, but at the end of the day, all these sensors will add up to a huge amount of cost. Each customer is going to or willing to pay for that particular cost. We need to think on that, right? He will pay only when he has certain return out of it, right? And for a particular purpose that he is looking at, whatever mission that is there. As Naveen mentioned, whether it is a dull or a dirty or a dangerous environment, or the application that you are solving, industrial, defense, or the social. Each one has its own way of looking at the things. So you need to look at it, which segment you are targeting, and what are your customers, how much he is willing to pay for it. And also you need to look at other compliances like the regulations, safety, security part of it. So all these things you need to look at it, and it is not an easy problem, but yeah, these are the things one need to look at it. But yeah, you are the smart people. I see a lot of demonstrations outside this auditorium, and I was literally wondering, okay, what these kids have done. So much of work they have done. And definitely, yeah, there's an immense opportunity there.
So Naveen, I mean, there's a couple of very interesting points I want to kind of carry forward from what Dr. Ravi said, and kind of get your Aay's journey through this, right? I mean, you are where you are, you have a certain product. How did you decide to go in that direction? How did you handle this ROI question, right? And robotics is a kind of a tough area because it requires quite a bit of investment and persistence, right? And when you look back, were there periods where you were pulling your hair out? And what are the mistakes, if you can share that, right? So that the next group might avoid those. That would be useful.
I can talk about it, but is this recorded?
Is this recorded live stream?
No, I'm
okay,
kidding.
It is. Okay, so you can.
No. Can talk about it. So our company is called Aay Motors. So one of the things that I should touch upon is like, how did the motor come in there, right? Like that's an interesting thing to talk about. We wanted to make induction motors for our robot, okay? But now we don't, right? We buy a motor from someone. So the thing that I wanted to touch upon is that you want to be very clear about what you want to make in the robot and make peace with the fact that you cannot make everything of it. There are things that you want to buy and there are things that you want to build. And as Dr. Ravi quite aptly said, right, it's huge. There are machines, there are platforms, and there are service, right? And there are some things that you cannot get it done outside and you have to make it, and that's your core USP. That's no getting away from that. And that's in fact your product differentiator. But you shouldn't try and make everything on your own, right? Like, and you want to see where is it that you're going to give that extra oomph. That's something that's if you figure it out on day one, fantastic. But sometimes it might take day 360 or something. Right? So there's no scientific way to say this. All you know is that you have a fuzzy idea of this is the problem that we are going to solve, and let's start solving it. And it feels like this robot to accomplish this, there are this A, B, C components. Let's build all of them. I mean, that's one way of doing it, right? So Aay's journey was, we should do material movement, and we should be in B2B because B2C is somewhat hard. And there was this thing coming out with the DAPA challenge and everything. So autonomous driving was big, and we said this is the way to go. But what happened was somewhere along the way, right? We realized public street autonomy is going to be very hard because you need to work with the government on regulations and things like that. Okay, so what we wanted to focus on was like industrial automation, and B2B works that way. But this kind of thinking, what it helped us do was we took lessons from Waymo and Tesla rather than MIR and Fetch and so on. So it was, if you look at Ati's bots, it will resemble more like a car where you have a 3D LiDAR on top, which is very natural, as against like floor robots, which will have like 2D LiDARs, and they can do it on flat surfaces, but they'll probably not go on public roads. So that helped us in the long term because you can do oil slicks and ramps and things like that. But on the flip side, you want to understand that journey where which of this stack, this is the whole robot, which of the stack is something that you want to put the Ati stamp on it, and which is that you want to develop, and which is that you want to partner with, right? Like starting back then, you didn't have the EV revolution we are having now. Now you have like tons of motor choices. So you don't have to make a motor. You have tons of battery choices. You don't have to make a battery. You have excellent battery and BMS that's available to you in the market. So drivetrain is not a problem these days, but back then the choices were few and we thought we should develop it and so on. And now you can also argue that the ADAS market is booming, so a lot of off-the-shelf compute is also available for you. So that is so in that sense, software is a clear differentiator. You can do that. The vehicle can be a clear differentiator as to what is the purpose-built vehicle that you're making to solve a specific problem. That's something that you can. And the recent trends, what they show is like a lot of people are working on fleet managers, which is like on top of the robots themselves, right? Fleet managers, they call it fleet manager, but it can do so much more. It can integrate to the backend warehouse system. It can work with barcode readers. It can work with conveyors. It can work with arms, drone, AGVs, all kinds of things. So that is an area where a lot of people are concentrating now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have a few follow-on questions. I'll reserve them for later because I want to kind of get the audience also in. But one final question to both of you before I hand it over to the audience. It is around, challenges for which you have faced in your journey. And of course, you are very different out here, right? So, of course, but I don't know whether everything was smooth for Infosys in your R&D activity or not. But, we keep hearing that India is not good for hardware, right? If you want to build hardware, do it in China. Or we can't, supply chain problems. We can't buy and source things and, various issues. I mean, are these real problems you face, or are these problems which can be overcome? I mean, where are we and where are we going? And is there something we need to still work with the government to make it happen? I mean, yeah.
Okay. So probably before I answer that question, you mentioned about the challenges that we face, right? So I'll answer the first. As part of Advanced Engineering Group, my job is to incubate some of those niche technologies. Around 6 years back, some of our senior management told us we need to build technologies around robotics and autonomous technologies, and also skill people, nurture people in this particular area, right? And that was the trigger till the time we were working on something else. And suddenly when we looked at it, okay, what is that we need to do, right? It's not about the classroom training or teaching. We need to make our hands dirty and make sure that we are good at what we are doing, right? So that's how we started our journey in the robotics side of it, and then build the initial toys. And in fact, we have our beautiful campuses with hundreds of acres, and then where we use mini vehicles to move from point A to point B, one building to the other building. So that was one of the trigger. One day we said, why don't we pull out one of these golf carts and make it autonomous, right? That's when we have some of our brilliant engineers, and then we build that initial drive-by-wire system and put that drive-by-wire system onto that golf cart, and we started moving it autonomously from point A to point B. So essentially that has become like a student project for us to move, and we matured over the years. Then later Sandeep Maini came to us and saw the vehicle, and he found it very interesting. He said, why don't we work together and take it to market? So that's how we started the journey with Maini, and then made that India's first autonomous golf cart and launched it. And as you know, till that time, being an R&D, you can put all kinds of sensors and then make that navigation much more smoother. But the thing is, you need to make it cost effective. So you can't have all kinds of sensors there. So we need to optimally reduce that particular BOM and then make it successful. So that's one of the broad use cases that we looked at. Then the other one is some of the material movement work that we have done. So we have smaller vehicles which can pull the material in a manufacturing shop floor, 1 ton capacity from point A to point B, then 5 ton capacity from point A to point B. Essentially working with Maini on that particular front because they had some of this good hardware in place. What we are doing is putting our software stack and autonomous stack and making it move autonomously. So that was easier for us. So what I'm telling is collaboration is key, right? So you need to collaborate, look wherever it is, don't reinvent the wheel. And through the collaboration, you can bring your own strengths, and then 1 + 1 can become 11. Okay. So that's, you need to look at it. Then the other one, related to supply chain. Yes, there are certain challenges that are out there, especially the electronics and the embedded side of it. There are a lot of initiatives that Government of India is taking. And of course, during COVID days, it was very, very tough. Now it is a little bit better. I think it is essentially the ecosystem that need to be built, right? If you look at India as a whole, automotive, entire ecosystem was led through the Marutis, Tatas, Mahindras, and Mainis in the groups, right? We have a very good ecosystem. Similarly, the aerospace today, the defense aerospace, pretty good ecosystem within the country. So that's the ecosystem that need to be built, and it's like an egg and chicken problem. Somewhere we have to start, and it should move. I think that is what we see today. We are at that inflection point as far as the robotics in India is concerned.
So basically, it's going to be taken care of. Let's not worry about it. Let's innovate. Fantastic. As a young startup, I'm sure you would have faced much more problems than Infosys.
I can let's talk about the supply chain problem. Robotics, one of the disadvantages is that your volumes are lower than automotive. I mean, you're not going to sell 2,000 robots a month. That's clear. So the MOQs that you need to give to your supply chain is on the lower side. So that is indeed a challenge. But on the other side, it's also a premium product. So you should be able to negotiate better prices. So it's not like, probably not give $10, but you'll probably give 15, but you will still get what you need. That is typically what we have seen. You pay more, but I don't think supply chain is a problem as such. But you need to be wary of the fact that your MOQs are lower and your production, you plan it like that. Otherwise, as Dr. Ravi said, it's not as bad as the COVID days. It's gotten much, much better.
On that very optimistic note, I think we will now invite the audience to actually share your thoughts, questions. Maybe you can use a mic.
Hi, am I audible? Yeah. So, I mean, great talk, and especially with respect to the manufacturing. I have a question to the panel: that what mistakes can we, as young people who are starting out organizations, whether it's related to software or to hardware manufacturing, what mistakes can we avoid from markets which have already emerged, such as US or China or other sub-European markets? And what would be some of the key points you would give to a young organization that, okay, you don't need to do this, maybe do this or focus on this, or this thing will take care of itself? What would be some of those points?
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, as an youngster, you should look at what you want to do, right? That is very, very important. Don't go for the market that is already saturated, okay, and me too can do. Don't look at that, but look at some of the niched ones, the white spaces you can figure out, right? And also the market that you are targeting, right? Which segment you are targeting, that is very, very critical. So if you look at it, that particular thing very closely, you will be able to figure it out, right? That's my view. That's segmentation is very, very important.
I can probably give a product mistake or whatever you want to think. Whether you're designing, like mechanical designing a robot or making boards or software, my opinion is you should assume that the robots are going to fail, and you should build robots like that. So that's a mistake that I could have made in my earlier part of things. So how do you gracefully bring them and make them functional is something that I feel we don't pay enough attention to while you're making a robot. I think that's something that's very important, because once you put it on the field and it's doing real tasks for customers and there is real impact when it's going to break down, it's very, very important how to bring them back. So this is something that the whole team should be in sync and aware of. And everything that you write, you ask that question: what happens if this doesn't work? So this DFEMA, as they say, right? That I think, unfortunately, robotics engineers don't seem to do enough of it.
Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have opinions. If it is wrong, please correct me. And this opinion is after consulting with my friends, seniors, and all those things. So yeah, we are a developing country. India has a lot of talent, and one thing is we are lagging a bit below. Like the rate of development is my opinion, other than the established countries in robotics especially. So the loop over here would be, when a robotics company offers you a job, or a software company offers you a job, definitely the salary difference is there. And in the perspective of parents, in the perspective of a student, he might prefer a higher thing. That is the true fact I would say I have observed. So that is the first point of the loop. So there's a low salary, there's low force, less force involved. The people force is involved, which there is lesser innovation comparative to the higher innovation, and there is lesser demand, and this loop goes on. So I'm pretty sure many of us are aware of it, and this might lead to a lesser growth rate overall, but we are already lagging back. So what's your opinion on it, and how do you think youngsters can get involved more? So it might be controversial, but I just want your opinions on it. Thank you.
No, that's a great point, very interesting point that you brought it up. My personal opinion is like this, right? You should be clear on what you want to do, right? You should enjoy your work, okay? No work is less or more kind of thing, whether it is a software or a hardware or a robotics or any other thing, right? So if you are passionate about doing your work, right, the other parts are the secondary, the salary, the other thing, and things like that, right? If you are passionate and continuously do that, right, and failures are part of life. Anything that you do, until and unless you fail, you will not learn, right? But the thing is, you should not repeat the same mistake again and again, okay? Continuously learn from it, move forward. Definitely the success is there, right? And that will build a lot of that stuff in the country. So in my view, I think youngsters, a lot of youngsters here, you are starting your career. You should be clear on what you want to do, what you enjoy doing it. Keep doing that. Master it. The rest will follow.
Is Infosys hiring robotics engineers?
Yes, we do.
Do you pay equivalent salary to a software developer?
It is the same.
See,
It's
there you
the
go.
same.
Okay, there is no disparity. Yes. Good.
Hello.
Okay,
Am I
then
audible?
you and then final question you. Yeah.
Okay. Will robots work out in the cheaper labor markets like India, like Thailand, Indonesia, kind of countries where the labor is so cheap that let us deploy a manual thing with hiring a cheaper labor compared to deploying a robot which is 5x or 10x the cost?
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned earlier. The problem that you're trying to solve, the India problems may be different from the outside problems. You need to look at it and look at the initial ROI, how that does look like, right? Whatever we do, it should amplify the human potential, not to replace humans, right? So you look at from that angle and then see. That's where Naveen has mentioned beautifully the 3D environment, right? Every robotic engineer looks at it. Each one of those Ds will give you very good perspective of what it is, what is the problem that you're solving, why are you solving, what is the ROI in it, what is the ROI for the customer. So everything comes out of it. I think you need to look at from that.
Thank you guys for the great conversation. I wanted to ask you a question about, I think Dr. Ravi, you mentioned about mining vehicles. There is already hardware there and you guys put a software stack on tap. I assume you to make it autonomous. So what kind of challenges did you face? Because I think it's about like retrofitting kind of a thing, right? So if you could elaborate on that. And thank you for the amazing conversation again. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Retrofitting is always a challenge, right? You know, that particular vehicle, whatever that is there, it is for the manually driven. Now, when you are making it autonomous, you are building on top of it, right? The layer. And then you will have a lot of redundancies in the beginning, right? Slowly you need to reduce that redundancies, remove it, right? And another thing is, okay, if you want to take this particular product, autonomous product to the same customer, he should buy it, right? You should have a value in having that vehicle. So you will have the question, okay, I'm having 2 people here who are running this. Still I need to employ those 2 people, or are there any kind of business case out there to utilize this particular vehicle? So those challenges are there. I mean, these challenges comes from the technology side as well as the business side of it. Yeah, these are some of the things that we looked at holistically. And it's a continuous journey, not that we know everything. So it's a continuously we're evolving.
Well, we don't retrofit. I want to share something that Professor Bharadwaj's group and I was also involved. We had retrofitted autonomy on a buggy in Indian Institute of Science, and it was really a fun project. I don't know about mass market, but it was super fun, and we did it together. It's still there.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we'll probably close this session. I think it was wonderful to have both of you, and I hope the audience also enjoyed the viewpoints and the conversation. So a big round of applause to the panelists.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the wonderful opportunity. Thank you.